Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here today to do a review of Gathering Moss, A Natural and Cultural History of Mosses by Robin Wall Kimmerer. This was the Book Naturalist Book Club pick for the month of November, and what a fantastic read it was. So this book is written, Kimmerer is a indigenous woman. She is a member of the Potawatomi Nation, and so this book also fits for the Skodan Readathon, or if you're reading for Native American Heritage Month. So this is a book that meets many of the criteria for different reading events here in the month of November. And just overall, I just 100% love Robin Wall Kimmerer's writing style. I think she's brilliant. We read Braiding Sweetgrass, I think, 2 falls ago. And that was an absolutely brilliant book as well. This book was a 5-star read for me. Who would think that a book about mosses would touch you as deeply as this book touched me? So before we even get started with the details, I just want to say I highly recommend this book. I highly recommend anything written by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I think she is amazing. So Kimmerer is she is a person who studies mosses. She's also a professor at an American university, and she has been able to combine her indigenous knowledge with her Western science knowledge to really forge out a pretty unique career. And this book combines the natural history of mosses, so the biological life cycle of mosses, the different species and their habitats, the ways in which they reproduce, the ways in which they can help build habitat in some cases. All of this is touched upon in these essays. This is a collection of different essays. And Kimmerer has this wonderful style of taking this scientific information, this biological information about these processes that happen in nature, and weaving in stories from her own personal life and from her indigenous knowledge to help really give you this well-rounded picture of what she's talking about. I think she does an amazing job of explaining some very difficult science. And Britta has mentioned, Britta also, she read this book with me as well this month, and she has talked about how this is the kind of book that, even though this is a very slim book, it takes a while to read because her writing is so, it is so perfectly selected, the words that she's using, that you want to linger upon it and really read it slowly in order to gather to yourself every bit of meaning that she is imbuing in her words. So yeah, this is a book to savor. This is a book to take your time with and savor. And I find that the best way to do that is to read an essay and then put the book down and think about it for a while and then read the next essay. I also had just a fantastic time taking notes while I was reading this because there was just so much wisdom in each and every essay. So, as I said, Kimmerer is a scientist who studies mosses. I really loved, I loved her descriptions of the field work that she conducts because it's very similar to my own research. That I don't conduct research, but I do field work. That has to do with applied sciences more than research sciences. And I don't work with mosses. I work in an entirely different field, but she has the type of field work that she does is very low tech. It involves getting dirty. It takes a long time. It's very, looking at things up close that are very tiny and counting lots of things. And so it's a process that requires you to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, dirty, and with stuff taking a long time. So it requires patience. And there were so many similarities to my own field work that I felt right at home as she was describing some of the monitoring that she does of these different mosses. I really could relate to what she was talking about. I also really loved how she was able to describe the importance of moss in the bigger picture of the overall environmental health of an area. Like if we're in the forest, the types of processes that happen because mosses exist there, or if you're in a peat bog, what the mosses are doing there to build environment. Just everywhere that mosses exist, they are an essential part of a functioning, healthy environment and ecosystem. And she does a great job of explaining that. She also does a wonderful job of explaining the differences between indigenous learning and Western scientific learning, and how those two processes are different from each other, and how they can work together to really give a unique picture of what you're trying to study. So I have a little section marked here that I wanted to share with you to give you an idea not only of Kimmerer's writing style, but of this concept. In indigenous ways of knowing, we say that a thing cannot be understood until it is known by all four aspects of our being: mind, body, emotion, and spirit. The scientific way of knowing relies only on empirical information from the world, gathered by body and interpreted by mind. In order to tell the moss's story, I need both approaches, objective and subjective. These essays intentionally give voice to both ways of knowing, letting matter and spirit walk companionably side by side, and sometimes even dance. So yeah, that's very lovely, and it really does hit on what she's doing with this collection, which is looking at something like moss that probably most people don't ever spend any time thinking about, and really trying to understand every aspect of its being. And I just think she succeeds wonderfully well in that. She also uses stories from her own life to illustrate the concepts she's talking about. So whether or not that's her neighbor who is a small scale farmer, and how the way they run a diversified farm speaks to ways that species diversify and use different life strategies at different stages in order to maximize their success and their ability to live. Thought that was a wonderful way to describe that. She talks about the process of raising her children, and how important it was for her kids to be out in the forest and learning by just being active outside, climbing trees, building forts, looking at critters in the mud, climbing over rocks, that sort of thing. She just weaves in stories from her own personal life in a way that illustrates the greater biological points that she's trying to make about these mosses. And she does it really, really well. And then the other part of this that I was really struck by was how she weaves in questions of morality and ethics, in terms of how humans see the world and how humans utilize natural resources for their own gain and their own benefit. She's really questioning how we interact with the wider world. Where is our place in it? And the way that humans have distanced themselves from the rest of nature and think of themselves as being apart from nature. And she's very much of the opposite mindset. She's of the mindset that we're all part of nature, and that we have to learn to live together in harmony. And that one of the things that's sort of stopping this from happening is that humans don't take into consideration the impacts that everyday choices that they make have on the environment and have on the rest of the world. So she really talks a lot in these essays about thinking for yourself about what is truly necessary for you to live. What is just something that you are doing because society has told you that's what you need to do, or culturally you've been taught that's what you need in your life. But how much of that is truly needs and how much is just wants, and how simply can you reduce the material things in your life? If you really thought about the harm you were doing to other living creatures, you might think a lot differently about everyday items that you use in your house or in your job or just every aspect of your life. And I think that those questions are really something that we should all be thinking about. I mean, she wrote this book. This book was first published back in 2003, and those questions are just as much, if not more, important today as we enter even later stages of climate change. Robin Wall Kimmerer has a lot of wisdom to impart, and she does it by talking about these wonderful living plants, the mosses, and I just can't recommend this book highly enough. So please, if you haven't tried Robin Wall Kimmerer, either this book or Braiding Sweetgrass, fantastic reads, well worth your time. Then for December, we will be reading from Terry Tempest Williams' work. This is The Hour of Land, a personal topography of America's national parks. Terry Tempest Williams is a well-known nature writer and basically talks a lot about living with the land, living on the land. This collection, at least this version of this edition of This Hour of Land, has wonderful photographs to start off each section. And I've already actually read this once before, and I'm really looking forward to the reread. I really enjoyed it the first time around, and so I anticipate that I will really enjoy it this time around as well. Lovely naked hardback for this one. So yes, so December pick for a Book Naturalist Book Club is The Hour of Land by Terry Tempest Williams. I hope that you will join us for this read, and I hope that if you haven't yet picked up Robin Wall Kimmerer, you will do so. Thank you all for watching. I hope you're doing well and finding some great books to read. I will talk to you later.